This fragrance is largely considered to be one of the best and most realistic marine scents around. Hello, welcome back to Seldomly Often. I'm Daniel. Today we're talking fragrances and this is a practical review of Profumum Roma Acqua di Sale. These reviews are for fragrances I have a lot of experience with, multiple wears in many situations, and are meant to give you a general idea of what it feels to wear the fragrance. As per usual, I do a lot of research before buying fragrances these days, but I don't really like to go into details about notes and accords, as I don't really think that they help the end user. I'd rather talk about the wear experience as a whole. Welcome to the first review of a Profumum Roma fragrance on this channel. I wanted to start off with a bang with one of the most popular from the house, maybe the most popular, Acqua di Sale. This is, as I said in the intro, it's regarded as one of the best, longest lasting, most realistic marine scents on the market today. I discovered Profumum Roma really late in my fragrance journey. It's a fairly popular house. I mean, I think that most people into frags have heard of it, but it's really niche by design and by intent. Their fragrances are weird. I think that they're mostly misunderstood apart from the heavy hitters and the most popular from the brands, such as Acqua di Sale. The prices of their fragrances is really high. They're generally kind of hard to get hold of. Overall, it's a difficult house to sample, and it's a generally difficult house to really understand if you don't get your nose firsthand on the fragrances. Profumum Roma is a family-run business from Rome. I actually bought this fragrance in Rome at the Profumum Roma boutique. And funnily enough, buying straight from the boutique in Rome was actually cheaper than buying from a discounter near me. These fragrances are really hard to find where I live. They're really hard to find on discounters. And as I mentioned, they're quite expensive and cryptic, so they don't really make the most enticing blind buy purchase. When you hear the name Profumum Roma, the first things that come to mind are the beast mode performance, the extreme longevity, and the quality of the scents. Yes, I can attest to all of those statements. The fragrances are quite high quality. I think that the oil concentrations on most of these are around 40%. They're really high oil concentration. And despite that, despite being pretty much extrait de parfum, they still project a ton and they really have that beast mode performance that most frag heads are into. And Acqua di Sale is no slouch at all, despite it being quite a delicate type of scent. And I'm using delicate with a word of caution because, again, when talking about Profumum Roma, no fragrance is really delicate, even just based on the performance alone. Most of the Profumum Roma fragrances have an Italian name that is not very intelligible by the international public. And even being an Italian, a lot of them are very abstract and cryptic. And even some of the most popular fragrances like Sorriso, which literally means smile, don't really convey what's in the fragrance unless you look at the notes, unless you read the marketing on the website. Acqua di Sale might just be one of those exceptions. The name means literally water of salt. So if you're thinking marine scent, you'd be right. This is definitely a marine forward scent. And as most Profumum Roma scents, actually, it's a fairly simplistic type of scent profile. And speaking of simplicity, this is one of the aspects that really characterizes the house of Profumum Roma. And it's actually one of the biggest misunderstandings of the house. Usually when you think niche perfumery, you think highly artistic, maybe complex, maybe very abstract scents. But Profumum Roma really follows the suit of a lot of the French houses that dedicate each fragrance to a specific ingredient or maybe a specific accord, in that all their fragrances are pretty straightforward. Most of them are very linear, and most of them really embrace that simple narrative of the single ingredient, single mood, and single type of vibe. And the more of these fragrances I smell, the more I sort of appreciate the skill that's required to really make that ingredient justice and just add to the complexity with maybe like surrounding notes to really elevate that ingredient and give you the best impression of that ingredient. And Profumum Roma, I think, is way up there in terms of quality, in terms of rendition, and in terms of delivering this type of concept. Before we dive into the scent profile for Acqua di Sale, let's talk about the presentation briefly. And here I have my sour spots for Profumum Roma. It's an expensive house. The bottles retail for over $200. And to be honest, if you look at the bottles, if you pick them up and everything, didn't really scream $200 or scream luxury in any way. Starting from the cap is basically a very thin sheet of metal. It might be some sort of an aluminum that's painted. It just feels exceedingly cheap. Even the atomizer, although quite good in the action and the type of spray you get, let's give it a couple sprays. just feels cheap. It feels like one of those screw-on atomizers from like a detergent bottle. It's just like really incredibly basic. The bottle itself actually ships with without the atomizer. It ships with one of those like screw-on caps, kind of like the Serge Lutens approach. And you have to basically unbox the whole thing and decide what to do with the fragrance. And one of the cool things that I really have to give Profumum Roma credit is what's in the box. It's basically a whole kit designed for you to experience the fragrance in different ways. So you basically have this cap that you have to unscrew, and then you can decide either to put on the atomizer, maybe to use the fragrance as a splash fragrance, which I really don't recommend given the fact that these are extract de parfum, quite expensive, and you'd be wasting a lot of the fragrances if you apply them in a cologne style. So you get the atomizer, which to me is the standard and my preferred application method, but you also get a little roll-on type of a travel size and even a pipette to like pipe the perfume in it in a very efficient and clean way. I think that aspect of the presentation is to be applauded because it gives a lot of flexibility. Now, the downside of this is that when you buy a Profumum Roma on the secondhand market or maybe like even the gray market, you're always doubtful of the purity of the fragrance itself because it's really easy to just unscrew the atomizer and just add random liquid to it. So I definitely would advise to buy it from a reliable source if you have that kind of paranoia. The bottle itself is pretty simple. It doesn't feel too luxurious. It's not too heavy. It's not too refined. The graphics on there are also quite simple. I think they're pretty iconic. They showcase the year of the fragrance and the lettering, which is the same for all the fragrances. Overall, the presentation is just okay, especially considering the price you're paying for this. You could argue that the presentation has a niche kind of charm to it, like the family-run thing. But Profumum Roma is widespread enough where there's really no excuse. They should have the supply chain really down. Enough about the presentation, let's get into the scent profile because that is where the Profumum Roma fragrances excel and that's what they're all about. Before trying Acqua di Sale for the first time a while back, I really didn't know what to expect because I was reading reviews, I was watching reviews, and a lot of people compare it to stuff like Mega Mare. A lot of people say it's like super synthetic. A lot of people say it smells like a dirty seawater with the algae and stuff. It's actually really wearable and it's a very beautiful, delicate, I feel elegant marine scent for the summer months. And upon first spray, what you immediately get is this very fresh, almost minty myrtle note. And that is the characteristic thing about Profumum Roma Acqua di Sale. Myrtle is this bush type thing that grows in the Mediterranean. Its berries are used for an alcoholic drink like a liquor called mirto. And I really associate myrtle to the island of Sardinia. And it's very common there, and my last name is actually associated to a brand of mirto, and people always reference that brand every time they hear my last name. In this actually, and this was confirmed even by the sales associate, a member of the family, this is an ode to the Sea of Sardinia. It's this like fresh sea air that's supposed to be reminiscent of summer. It's supposed to be reminiscent of just taking in sun, and just overall about the beautiful sea experience that you can get in Sardinia and in the rest of the Mediterranean. Now, Profumum Roma also has a very Sardinian inspired fragrance called Ichnusa. That is all about the narrative of the center of the Sardinia. And there's still myrtle in there, so there is a good tie between the two fragrances, but that is way less sea and more like the continental, sort of like the rural and arid part of Sardinia. So going back to the opening, going back to this myrtle note. Myrtle is, in this fragrance, it's very fresh, it's very herbaceous, it has this woody facet to it. It's really rough and tumbled. It does feel like a plant that lives near the sea. It really gives that impression. Similar in a way to maybe like juniper and juniper berry. That is also a type of plant that lives near the seaside. And it has the same kind of like aromatic freshness to it. The rest of the fragrance is pretty straightforward. You get this incredibly salty note with this background of this polite green algae. And when you smell this, you can't help but picture this crystalline, calm Mediterranean Sea with these like waves rolling onto this white sand. It's really beautiful, it's really calming and really fresh. And as I mentioned, I think that this scent is actually really elegant, despite the heavy marine note. And marine notes are a weird note because they have this metallic tinge that can give off a body odor type of smell to some people. And this is true even for designers that implement these type of notes. There are people that complain about the body odor background, even in Acqua di Gio or even in the Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue Intense. I never really got that body odor aspect of it, but in this fragrance specifically, you have to be warned that there is this very prominent, salty metallic note. For some reason, the way they managed to pull it off in this fragrance, maybe combined with that myrtle, maybe combined with that gentle woody aspect to it. It screams elegance, it screams high class. You can really picture beautiful people in white linen clothes spending the day at the beach and taking in the most glamorous aspects of marine life. It's almost like the essence of something like a sea salt spray for your hair. It's just that kind of scent profile. It's really nice. And if you wear this, it's strong, yes, it is strong, but it really feels like almost like a background scent. And although I didn't receive any comments specifically, I almost feel that people are questioning if I spent a day at the beach or not. In true Profumum Roma style, this fragrance really doesn't transition much. It stays more or less the same. The only thing that changes from the opening to the deep dry down is this myrtle note, which is very prominent in the opening and sort of like blends into the background on the deep dry down. This fragrance lasts a really long time. It sticks around for a long time on your skin and even more so on clothes. I do think that the scent profile itself really lends itself to being on skin, but I easily get 10 hours plus of longevity. And even when you think it's not there anymore, as soon as you get up and start moving, the immediate change in body heat really starts that projection all over again. It's a very beautiful and delicate scent profile and quite different from those beast mode sea fragrances from the other Italian houses such as Megamare from Orto Parisi and even Black Sea from Lorenzo Pazzaglia. Touching upon the practicalities of this fragrance, I think that the versatility is extremely high. This is absolutely signature scent worthy. You can pretty much wear this in every situation. Although I think it's a little bit more of a daytime scent just because it really strikes that image of like white linen clothing. But within that daytime setting, you can really wear this anywhere, even to the gym, I would say. It has this refreshing, invigorating, and uplifting type of a scent profile. And for some reason, it really has that get up and go type of vibe, even though it's lacking those like refreshing and invigorating citruses. And when you wear this fragrance from a formal to a more casual situation, you have this like effortless, smell good aura around you, similar to what Ganymede was doing. And when you wear this, you really don't pass as someone who is wearing perfume. Again, the scent profile is quite unusual. You just have this aura around you that really increases your appearance by a couple notches. It really screams luxury. It just screams subtle luxury, subtle elegance, and almost that kind of exclusiveness, like I have access to a marine pool or I have access to a boat, or that kind of concept. Age-wise, I think that this is not necessarily super youthful, and that is also true for many other fragrances that really are an ode to a single ingredient. This is definitely not one of those mass appealing type of fragrances that just smell clean and shower gel-like. You have to have a little bit of confidence to pull this off. Otherwise, that heavy C note might just be wearing you. And you have to have this confidence about it, almost like wearing a very light animalic type of fragrance. I'm absolutely in love with this scent, although it didn't really get much wear this summer. And this is due to the stupid fact that by living in the mountains, marine scents don't really fit. And Switzerland doesn't have a coast or access to the sea. So any type of scent that resembles a marine type of fragrance really comes across as just weird and out of place. I mostly wear this when I'm abroad or I'm at home or just generally alone. I might wear this for a hike just to have that, again, that aura around me. And although I want to repeat that I do think that this is highly versatile, this is a lot more of a smell rather than a fragrance or a perfume. So it has to fit the vibe and the culture that's around you. Otherwise, it's just gonna be abrasive and weird. I really like Profumum Roma. I really like Acqua di Sale. This is definitely one of those fragrances that will stay in my collection for the foreseeable future. I just can't see myself replacing it. It's very unique. It's still wearable. It's not gimmick based like the Black Sea or the Megamare, as much as I love those fragrances. This is a lot less fatiguing and can be worn on a day-to-day basis, and that's why I can recommend it for a signature scent. Is this the best start for Profumum Roma if you haven't experienced the house? I'm not really sure. I think that this is their only marine scent, and they're not really known for marine scents. They're mostly known for their vanillas and actually gourmand scents. I would probably recommend starting with something like Sorriso itself, which is a beautiful chocolate scent, or Dulcis in Fondo, which is it's like this really beautiful kind of pastry, like a lemon pastry type of thing. They're really good at those gourmand scents. They're very photorealistic, but not in a cloying way. Again, I like the house. I'll be definitely exploring more of it. And for those who are asking, yes, I tried Arzo, I tried Fumidus, I tried some of the more popular masculine ones, but I really didn't find them too different and too attractive, especially compared to stuff from Amouage, which I'm a lot more used to. I'm very happy to own this. I think it's worth the price ultimately, even at retail. If you're into marine scents, if you want something wearable, I would definitely sample this first and see if this is your vibe. I guess that's it for the first Profumum Roma, the brand from Rome, my home city. I guess I have a soft spot for them, but if you're into frags, if you're into powerful fragrances and you like experiencing new things, you owe it to yourself. Try to get your nose on some of these because they're definitely worth it. If you like this type of content, if you like my approach to videos, feel free to subscribe. It always helps the channel and it's massively appreciated. If you want to interact with me, you can leave a comment, opinion, or anything else down below. I always reply and I always keep the conversation open. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your time. Another video down, many more reviews to come, a new format coming soon. Stay tuned for that. See you in the next video. Cheers.